Alright, welcome back everybody to the 5th round of the Western States Open. In this game, I was paired with the white pieces against a 2159 Theodore Biasas from Canada, I believe, but now living in California. So I started off with the move e4, and then he responded with e5, knight f3, knight c6, and here I decided to try the Spanish for the first time. He plays a6, bishop a4, knight f6, this is all the main line, and now I castle, and then he proceeds to take this pawn on e4, which is the open Spanish. And so we continue with theory, pawn to d4, now pawn to b5, bishop b3, and d5, securing the knight in the center and taking some central space for black. And now I decided to play d takes c5, which is still theory. Bishop e6 is the only move to defend the pawn on d5. And this is kind of the nature of the Spanish. It's studied to death, basically, and so the theory goes on for many moves. And here, this is where I kind of deviate from mainline theory. The mainline goes knight b to d2, but there's also the move c3 in this position, trying to give space for this bishop. But in this position, I played the move queen e2. And the reason behind this move is I'm opening up the d1 square for my rook, and I wanted to put a lot of pressure on the pawn on d5. And after the move rook d1, I can also play for the move c4, seeing that the d pawn is pinned. And so that will help liberate the center a little bit, as black is a little bit better in the center, but white can develop very quickly. So knight c5, this is not the most popular move. The most popular is bishop e7, just simply developing. Knight c5 is also a good move, trying to just get the bishop pair by playing knight takes b3. Here I continue with rook d1, knight takes b3, a takes b3, and now bishop to e7. And here comes my idea. Now I play the move c4 before playing the move knight c3 and finishing my development, because I want to put pressure on black's center as quickly as possible before black is castled. Here the best move is b4, trying to close down the center, but instead he castles, which is also a very good move. Now I continue with bishop e3, and after the move knight b4, which tries to relieve some pressure on the center by potentially playing the move c6 or even the more aggressive c5 to try and play d4, I played knight c3, finishing my development. And here comes the most critical moment. In this position, he played c5, which during the game I thought was definitely the best move for black, but actually, according to the engine, a more patient move like queen d7, trying to build up and bring a rook to d8, is actually a lot stronger for black and maintains equality. But the move c5 is a little bit of an overextension according to the engine, because after I take on d5, which is forced because black is threatening to play d4, which is a fork, I take, now knight takes, and the engine wants me to simply play queen e1. And this position is a lot better for white. It's plus 0.9, because this pin on the d file is actually really hard to get rid of. Because the queen is on d7, the only square from which it can really move and defend the knight at the same time is the a8 square. So, like, black would have to play something like rook a7 and rook d7, maybe queen a8, to try and just relieve the pressure on this knight. But in that time, apparently I have enough for this idea b4. Which I briefly considered during the game, but I just didn't find the right moment on where to apply this idea. So the reason why b4 works is because this pawn is completely pinned, both on the diagonal because of the rook hanging, but also once the center opens up, this pin is super dangerous as well. So the best move for black is probably queen a8 here, and now I can simply take on c5 and I'm up a clean pawn, and this is quite nice for white. So unfortunately, I didn't see this line during the game, and after thinking for a while, I played the move rook d2. To be honest, I thought after the move c5, I was already starting to be a little worse. I thought black had completely equalized after c5, and I didn't really see much of an advantage in this position. But if I had seen this line beforehand during the game, I would have been able to prove the advantage. So after cd5 and knight d5, I play rook d2, and now black is slightly better, because what I've kind of allowed black to do is play knight takes c3. And I saw this in the game, but I thought it would be a good move to play rook d2 and force knight takes c3, because at least that will help me undouble my pawns. In this position, I was also considering to play knight takes d5, bishop takes d5, and then rook d2, but that doesn't work either because black has the move bishop takes f3, and this attacks the queen in the process. So I would have to play queen takes f3. Black would move the queen, and I can double on the d file, but black is still equalizing here after queen takes c5, and this is still pretty good for black. So I kind of had to see that line with queen e1 here. So after rook d2, he plays knight c3, bc3, and I could tell I was already probably a little bit worse here because black has this really nice queenside majority, and even though I can put pressure on this weak a6 pawn at some point, black also has the two bishops, which actually works out really nicely for him in this position. So I play the move c4, just defending my queenside because bishop takes b3 was a threat. B takes c4, b takes c4, and now he plays h6. This is just a pretty healthy move in general, giving space for the king on the back rank. And now I just play rook d to a2, because white doesn't really have much of a plan besides pressuring the pawn on a6. So rook b8 was played. This is a nice move, setting up some tactics on the back rank. I can't take this pawn because after takes and takes, rook b1 is pretty devastating because I have to play knight e1 and then queen takes c5. Or actually even the fancier bishop takes c4, which is a nice move, deflecting the queen because of the hanging knight on e1. So here in this position, there's also the idea of rook b4, pressuring the pawn on c4. So here I played bishop d2. This is the best move because I'm stopping rook b4. I am also stopping this pawn from moving forward by controlling the a5 square. So now my opponent plays queen b7, setting up even more pressure on the b file, and you could see that his idea was to play queen b3 and pressure the pawn with the queen in addition to the bishop. And here I played h3 just to stop any back rank tactics and kind of renew the pressure that I had on the a6 pawn. He plays queen b3. Now I play rook a4. This is basically the only move to keep the c pawn defended. And now he plays queen c2, another very precise move from my opponent, setting up a pin over here, and even the potential idea of rook b1. So here I play knight e1, attacking the queen, and now he plays the move rook b1. This is a really, really nice and precise move. It's really the only move that proves black an advantage here after rook b1. It's still minus 0.8, so white is not completely lost just yet, but black is really just starting to take over the game here. This, of course, pins the knight, and if I take the rook, black can take either way, queen takes a4 or queen b1, and black will still be a lot better here because the pressure on c4 will just be a little bit too much. So after rook b1, I thought here for a while, and I figured that if I played something else, maybe like I was thinking of playing rook a2, but for some reason I didn't really like this because I kind of allowed his rook to get into the back rank for free, and then I started calculating a bunch of lines with rook takes a6, and it's ultimately what I played in the game. And there's actually it's a really tricky move. For instance, if white or if black is not careful here and plays something like rook takes a1, which looks like it wins material because the rooks defend each other, now I can play rook takes a8 check, and black is forced to play rook a8, and now this pin on the first rank is gone, so I can take the queen on c2. So this was one of the lines that I saw. Additionally, after rook takes a6, I thought that after something like, let's say rook d8, attacking the bishop on d2, I can just play rook takes b1. Now I'm attacking the queen again, so if rook takes d2, I just take the queen. And if queen takes d2, of course, I would be up in exchange there. So queen takes b1 is forced, and then I thought here I can just play something like rook a7, just putting my rook on the 7th rank, and I thought maybe I should be able to hold this. And it is minus 0.4 according to the engine in this position. But he finds the correct move in this position, which is rook takes a6, and now black is completely winning, unfortunately, because after rook takes a6, he plays bishop g5, another really precise move from him, using this pin on the on the bishop because it's attacking the queen, and eventually what kind of happens is that white's position kind of falls apart. So here I played rook a8. I saw some pretty crazy lines here, and the best that I could go for was after rook a8, I wanted to force the king to this diagonal, to be on the same diagonal as this rook. And here I played king h2 with the idea that if the queen takes the bishop, then I'll be able to play queen e4 check and pick up the rook in the corner. However, he actually was very precise here. There are two moves that are really good for black. The rest of them are simply just equal. The first move, which I thought he was going to play in the game, was rook takes e1. This is by far the simplest move because the bishop cannot take since the queen would be hanging. So I would have to take with the queen. And then he can just take the bishop on d2. And black is, of course, completely winning here, despite material being equal because the bishop pair is just far stronger than the rook. The pawn on c4 is extremely weak, and black's c-pawn will ultimately decide the game by promoting. But instead in the game, he played bishop f4, and I had a little bit of hope because he was very, very low on time. He had about like 5 minutes left with about 10 more moves to make. So we're on move 28 now, so there's actually 12 more moves to make until the time control. But the problem is black's position is just too good here for there to be any chances for white. So here I just play g3 because I don't want to put my king back on the back rank because otherwise that would just lose very quickly. Queen takes d2 was played. And here I just simply played queen e4 because there's really nothing else for white to do besides kind of just call black's bluff and take the rook and see what happens. I wasn't really calculating at all anymore in this position because I was kind of only going for only moves. And unfortunately, there's a checkmate in 4 here for black, starting with queen takes f2. And yeah, there's really no way for white to escape here. If I play knight g2, blocking the check, there's queen takes g3 check. I can't go to h1 because queen h2 would be mate. So king g1, now bishop e3 check, and if I go king f1, queen f2 is mate. And if I go king h1, then queen takes h3 is mate. So I saw this sequence and then played king h1, but it's still winning because after queen f1 check, king h2, queen takes h3 check, and king g1, bishop e3 is checkmate. And we played this out on the board, and yeah, black wins in this position. So rather unfortunate game. I think I definitely should have seen this line with queen e1, although it was very hard to find in the middle game. This was really the only chance that I ever had in this game, because after missing this critical queen e1 move, I was basically worse for the rest of the game. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the tough reality of openings like the Spanish. You have to be super precise all the way through, and if you're not and you make this one little mistake, then you can get punished for it. So, but my opponent played super well that game, so credit to him. And yeah, I'll see you for the next recap for round 6.